Good evening, everybody.
Welcome back to Competitive Speed Series.
The time has come. 4, 5 red lights. Three wide through turn 3. Oh, into the wall!
I knew this would happen. I knew they wanted to try something.
Hey, Yamar have gotten their wish. A 1-2 for the team. Another victory for VNT to put the cherry on top of their dominance.
Right, I believe you can hear me now. Welcome along, ladies and gentlemen, to round number 1. We're kicking off the Competitive Speed Series season here tonight. Well, it's a very exciting time for us and for you as well, as season number 7 will get underway on the console side. Of course, we had season 7 kickoff last night in PC, but now it's the console side's turn. My name's Joseph Black. Alongside me will be Jamie Jackson across the course of the evening. And yeah, we should have a pretty good race. But without further ado, I'm going to send you trackside. And you will get pictures and footage as well. As you've got the likes of RW06 official on the circuit at the moment. And heading through the first sector as the first laps are getting underway. So we've not missed too much of the action. But Jamie, welcome along. This is your first Competitive Speed Series broadcast. And what sort of things are you expecting?
I'm expecting, hopefully some good, exciting action. It's a very technical circuit, very high speed corners and very high speed layout. But there's very few opportunities to make overtakes here. Obviously, you've got to run down to turn 1 of the DRS. You've got the final chicane if you get a good run out of Spoon. But I'm expecting drivers to try and find their footing here tonight, especially since it's the start of the season. And we should see drivers trying to learn where they are on the field, how other drivers race, and and get themselves settled in for the season to come.
Yeah, they're going to try and settle themselves in. David Band setting the first lap time of the evening. A 26.153 is going to be the benchmark for all the drivers to beat. And Zviade goes in behind a 26.548 for the Aston Martin. Volokongan 26.214 for himself. And well, it'd be interesting to try and pick apart who's driving for what team. As of course, we've had the off-season where drivers have made their switches, swapped teams around, and now they get the opportunity to race for the team that they've wanted to race for this whole time. As RW06 into the pit lane, and Matthias is on a push lap, but he's not around the final couple of corners. Who is going to be around the final couple of corners? Is that Max Power? No, it's not, because that's a Haas. No, I was looking for the other Max Power. As I was on board with AMS Devil, and Max Power heading through the second sector. We've got a number of times they'll just flow in as we go through the course of the session. I won't try and search too much for all of the positions at this point in time. But yeah, Max Power heading through the second sector. David Band still on top alongside his teammate Volokongan, and you've got Nico Castronovo finding his way into 3rd place. And now Max van der Geest, his teammate, has displaced him, so Venturi and Shazoo Cedar Igniters setting the pace at the moment. Shazoo Cedar Igniters are the 2 RBs, and VNT, Venturi, are the 2 not V-Cubs, the 2 Red Bulls, for those of you who are uninitiated. Then, as that's Max Power into the wall, out of this qualifying session, what on earth has happened there?
So I was watching him as he was coming across the line. He seemed to have clipped the barrier where it suddenly like jigged out as well on the main straight. So he seems to have clipped that, trying to cut as much time off of these laps as possible. He did a 26.812, exact same time as Boom Pie in P11, but I'm sure that that crash certainly didn't help. And now he's out of the session and will be at the back of the grid. But well, near the back of the grid by the time we get to the end of this qualifying session, and that is a big loss as well. To be doing that on your first flying lap of the season, that could be quite damaging in terms of your mentality going into the rest of this race. The rest of this race session. Sorry.
Yeah, it certainly could. It could scare you into sort of getting scared of the barriers, really, as Gabza is going to invalidate on his lap. Now, Devil will be the next one on one as the second laps have begun. But Max Power won't be improving. With 26.812, he's behind Bumpia because Bumpia set the lap earlier, but he's ahead of VMV Indian as well at this point in time, as Indian set a slower lap time. Indian and Gabza representing VMV here this evening. We have, I believe, that's not TF10 in the Mercedes cars, but it will be Monza racing for. And I'm trying to work these out as I go along because I'm not as necessarily as initiated as I should be on the console side of things. At least I know a lot more about the PC, the PC people really. But we will see what these drivers are representing as AMS Devil sets a 26.716 and he's out of sync with everybody else. So nobody else is on a lap. VMB Indian is going to come into the pit lane and RW06 official. The first one on the first runs is going to be the first one on the second runs. Having a look now, the two Mercedes are the RSC, the Race Speed Championship team, Mattia Manga and Monza Semi Abatia representing the Mercedes team, representing RSC, as I try and write this down as I say it. And then I believe the Kick Sauber team, they've got TRT Zane, so I'm going to see off the back of that. I think that may well be TRT represented in the Kick Saubers. Then the FRT drivers are going to be, well, Max Power for one of them, so it's not gone so well for FRT there, and RWB being the other one, as I've just been pinged by something, so I'm going to turn that off so you don't have to hear my incessant pings all evening as Ace DMs me correct information after I've just said incorrect information, probably. But we're just trying to work things out as they go. Ace is DMing me all of the cars. There we go. That's really helpful. Thank you, Ace. Of course, one of our admins, one of the two most active admins, Ace and Ollie, power couple representing competitive speed series. But you've got the Shizou Cedar Igniters racing in the V Carb in the Mercedes. I can't see that colour, which is really annoying. And I'm going to try and highlight it now. RSC are Mercedes. They've chosen a really annoying colour to be. FRT are in the Alpine. VNT are in the Red Bull. VMV are in the McLaren. That's not going to get confusing at all. ONB in the Williams. IRT in the Aston Martin. AERT in the Ferrari. AMS in the Haas. And Sauber are representing the TRT, the Tatum Res Tech team. But there you go, folks. Those are the cars that you should be looking out for out on the circuit. And I'm going to pause the stream again as I'm going to pull these ones up right alongside each other so I don't forget that again, because that would be very annoying if I did forget that again. But yeah, it's a decent start to qualifying then that we've had. David Bands and Volakongan demonstrating that SCI, our reigning champions, might well be on their way back to the top.
Yeah, it seems like a very good run for the two at the top right now, sitting 1-2. It's very close at the top with almost with the top three within a tenth. You got exactly a tenth between Max and Bands. There are, and then his Red Bull and his teammate Nico is only just behind him by a couple hundred. So it is ridiculously close. I'm currently looking at the Ferrari of RW06, who is going to be the next driver to complete a lap time. Currently yet to set a lap. He did go for a first attempt and invalidated on the exit of the Degners, but he's now going to go into the final chicane. Can he manage to put himself up at the front of the field? He's going to have a McLaren in front of him and get a massive load of oversteer on the exit curve and crosses the line to go P12 with a 26.7, but he certainly has time to gain in that lap. We're going to go and see the mistake. Am I here? No?
You are here now.
Am I here now? Great. So that's at least something. Have you muted me again? I've got to unmute me, sorry.
No, I've had a lag spike and I've disconnected from the session.
Oh, okay.
That's helpful.
I'll get you an invite back.
I mean, I was going to make a joke about the 26.7, and then you cut off. So I was like, oh, never mind.
Yeah, I sent you the invite back. There you go.
Thank you very much for the invite. I will rejoin the session. You'll get pictures on your screen very soon of the race indeed, or of the qualifying session, of the later stages of the qualifying session. Don't forget that we have various different ways we'd like you to interact in the polls, and one of them being that we have polls all in themselves. We've had 15 votes so far in the poll that is this evening, and what will the poll time be? Will it be faster or slower than a 25.9? I've put faster because I think it will be, and that is the majority of the people in the chat. The 87% of you, or 87% of us at least, have put that the poll time will be faster than a 25.9. 13% have put slower than a 25.9. And at the moment, David Band's getting closer to it as we're back in the session, and David is only a tenth of a second off. We've seen him in console tier 1 being an incredibly quick qualifying driver. Hasn't quite hooked it up in race sessions yet, and today might be the change, as now it's not the two SCIs 1 and 2. Max van der Geest splits the two.
Yeah, he's, as Max put in a very good lap there. We're very close to that 25.9 that you are expecting us to beat. But the track is starting to ramp up now, with all 19 drivers having been out on track at least, trying to attempt to put some laps in, with Mattia, Manga and Monza unable to set a proper time. But there's been a lot of rubber laid down by now, and the drivers are starting to get into a groove. Devil should be the next driver to cross the line. He's currently coming around the final chicane. Can Devil put himself in a better position than at P12 at this point? 26.7 currently his time. It's a 26.3, puts himself to P8. 3 tenths quicker, and right in there with his teammate off surface, and just behind Nico as well. So a very good lap there from Devil. A couple more drivers yet to set coming around to set times. Gabsa, I think, is the next driver to set a time, but he's currently invalidated. So I think everyone else has completed their times who has. So we're now going to go to our final runs very shortly, as everyone starts to peel into the pits.
Yeah, they've peeled into the pit lane. Monza hasn't been able to set a time either, and so he finds himself at the back of this field. We are still missing one driver at the moment. It is Caden Henry for AERT, who has not showed up so far. And, well, it doesn't look like he is showing up yet. And it doesn't look like he might show up at all, because he's got 4 minutes 30 to join, or he won't be in this race session. And he will be out of this, and his team will get punished as a result. Just having a look at some of the times. Benjamin moved up to 8th place as my keyboard's just moved itself. That's exciting. Benjamin in 8th place has just gone ahead of Devil. He got a 26.363. Devil got a 26.392. So there is 300s separating those two drivers. Then you've got the two Kicksalvers, the two TRT drivers, Matthias and Zane. Matthias with a 440, Zane with a 667, and then Owen B. Ortiz in 12th place as well. That's 8th down to 12th. That is a pretty close fight that we've got on our hands, and RW06 could be in that one as well, as he finds himself in 13th place with a 26.7. 3-4 to his name and number and team and car, because it's the Ferrari. But he's the only representative of his team tonight, and they'll be trying to find Caden, hopefully on a ditch of some sort. 3 minutes 22 left in the session. We have a couple of drivers getting out onto the circuit, and the first one will be, speaking of, the AERT driver, not the one in the ditch, the other one, RW06, who heads around the first corner, and he's just getting his final preparations underway. The tyres will be, they'll be fresh. They'll be the freshest they'll be all session long, all evening long, and he'll be trying to warm them up now. The first sector's pretty good to warm them up, in fact, because, well, it's so twisty, it's so technical that it can actually allow you to get a decent amount of heat in there.
Yeah, it certainly can, and it's one of the few benefits of a circuit like this. It is very easy to get the tyres all warmed up quite equally as well, because it's a figure of 8 circuit. You kind of flip back on yourself and then punish the right side tyres more on the second half of the circuit a little bit. So it does make that difference in terms of getting the tyres warmed up equally, because at most circuits you tend to warm up the tyres different offsets. So you end up with, say, if you doing anti-clockwise circuit, you warm up the right side tyres, and the left side tyres might not quite be in the operating window if you do not do the preparation properly. One thing we're going to see for RW06 is he's coming round towards 130R now. There is a gaggle of drivers coming out of the pit lane at this moment, so he has to be careful not to catch them by the end of the lap, as they all try and find a space But shall we stick on board with Mr. RWO6 for his lap and take us through a lap of the Suzuka circuit? Um, so
Yeah.
we certainly shall. As we go down towards the first turn, very long, very tight as it tightens. As you go down to fourth gear, go onto the exit, go up the gears now, and he actually backs off, decides to go around for a second warm-up lap, sees that he will probably catch traffic by the end of it, and decides, you know what, I'm going to go for a second out lap and become the final car to cross the line. He has the time, but he will need to make sure he keeps those tyres in check and doesn't too quickly catch the cars in front, because otherwise he may lose out on some lap tyre temp. He's been prepping for 2 laps. So instead, who is the next driver on lap? I think it's RWB, correct? Oh, and he's very far off. He's almost got off the circuit there, very unfortunate for him. He just got a bit of oversteer as you come off the exit of the S's, and he's had to back off of that one. So next couple of drivers are coming around on a lap. They're all very, very close to each other, and there's a Mercedes in the barriers, I think.
I believe
It's
you might
W
be
Monza.
right.
It's Monza. He's currently in the barriers at the S's.
Oh.
So he will not be completing a time, and unfortunately for him, he's gonna be starting back at the back of the pack in P19. That is crucial for a track like this, where it's so difficult to overtake and it's so technical. Dirty air is certainly a factor at this circuit. So we'll have to see how he does throughout the rest of the session. The McLaren of Gabsa is going to be the first drivers to cross the line and set a time, I do believe, then, because of the others' failures in their final runs. Gabsa coming up towards 130R now. What time can the Papaya car do as he go down towards the final chicane? He seems to have kept this one nice and tidy, but is it going to be enough to get himself towards the line and let himself up the order? Currently P17. Where is he? He remains P17 for 27-1, and he may drop to P18 if Mattia Manga can do anything about it. But the rest of the field are starting to cross the line. Band has invalidated. Bands is invalidated. Our current provisional pole sitter will not be able to get a final run in, and that is very crucial to his run. If Max or Volokongan can get a time in, this could be a very, very different pole sitter to what we're seeing at this current moment.
Certainly could. AMS Surface up to 3rd, and Volokongan has not improved, and he'll be coming into the pit lane. Mats van der Geest is not improving, but he's only just down as we look further down the field. Nico Castronovo just behind one of the Ferraris, just ahead of his teammates, so might be giving him a sumptuous bit of slipstream as everybody comes to an end. And it's David Bands currently on pole position. Surface setting in exactly the same time to Max van der Geest, but sitting behind because van der Geest set it first. But Castronovo to the line for Venturi. It's a 26.184. It's up to 4th place. His teammate up to 1st. A 25.975 from our pole sitter, our current pole sitter, and what will remain our pole sitter, as Matthias has no front wings. So Van der Geest pulls it out of the bag at the final moment, and he will be on pole position. And those of you in the chat who said faster than 25.9, you were incorrect. It was a slower than a 25.9, only just into the 25s in the first place. Max van der Geest taking pole position with David Bands not setting a final lap time. He was stuck on a 26.061. He'll be stuck on the 2nd place on the grid. AMS Surface 3rd place. Nico Castronova will join him on the 2nd row of the grid. Volokongan and RWB the 3rd. Zviade the 4th row of the grid alongside Ortiz and the Matthias Manga and Benjamin round out the top 10. Devil, Matthias, RWO6, Zane, Bumpia, Indiana, Max Power, Gabza, and then Monza will round out the field. And that is a scintillating prospect, I think. 8/10 separating the majority of this field, and we will see what they have the chance to do throughout the rest of the course of this race. And throughout the actual race session itself, we will be seeing what they can do. No ET8, indeed no ET8 is the answer to that one. I'm trying to find the qualifying results, but I cannot. Is it going to be in here potentially? No, I can't find it. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a very interesting race session indeed. I think the Japan is going to be a good race, all things considered. And well, I've just found not the qualifying times. I'll find the qualifying times at some point, but there is in fact no ET8, There is, in fact, a few teams missing. It's allowed the likes of VMV to sneak their way into this race and to sneak their way into this qualifying. But it's a good start for the two V-Carbs, for the two SCR drivers, and Venturi as well. I think those are the two main contenders for race 1.
Yeah, they certainly are. Max put in an excellent lap, and Ban's very unfortunate to not get his final run in. Luckily for him, starts in the front row, so just next to Max in that scenario. So it's not to the end of the world. It could have ended a lot worse, him not getting that final run in. But it seems like a lot of drivers were struggling with that final run. We're pushing the boundaries there. Probably the last couple centimeters of road, skirting the white line and keeping it, and they just went over the boundary. They stepped over the line, and unfortunately for them, they that caused invalidation and dropped a couple of them down the field. So we're going to see whether those drivers themselves can put themselves in a better position and where they should be come the end of the 27 laps. However, we have got some strategy going on, different strategies. Got the top 8 currently on medium tyres, and then we start to see the rest of the field alternate between the medium and the hard compound tyres, switching to alternate strategies potentially to gain an advantage later on in this race, with overcuts and undercuts all playing a factor in this game.
Yeah, they certainly will play a factor indeed, and I am trying to find the qualifying results. I have been able to find kind of qualifying results, but not really, because they are out of order, I think. As well, that's interesting. I clearly found the wrong thing to see, but yeah, that is what it is. And well, make sure to check out the socials. You can probably find the standings better than I can. And, well, of course, it'll allow you to keep up with everything as well. It'll allow you to keep up with us, with competitive speed series, with, you know, you can check our socials out. You've not been pinged, Jamie, because I replied too late with what your Twitter tag is. But I'm sure that you'll be able to find him as well. Exclamation mark links. Doesn't appear to work, Ace, so try that one again. But yeah, we'll see what they are going to be able to do. The drivers, as we are going to head to the race session, they are readying up out on the circuit. Volokonga not happy about it. Everybody else happy to get going. And then we'll see what the drivers are capable of doing as the 5 lights are coming on ahead of them with this Japanese Grand Prix ready. The drivers are ready. And the action gets underway. Van der Geest is going to pull across into turn number 1 already ahead of David Ban's Surface, trying to fight for position, but instead he's going to be bogged down with Nico Castronovo on his inside and Volokongan on his outside. Castronovo still fighting away for this 3rd place, tries to hold the outside line, tries to sweep through, does so, and he holds 3rd place with Surface dropping to 4th and maybe even 5th if Volokongan can keep his tyre in. But Max van der Geest is going to lead away from this race start. And Surface only drops to 4th in the end. There's a couple of moves further back as Monza's gained 2 on this race start. He was in 19th and he's moved up past Gabza and Bumpia, and we'll ride on board with him as we look, at the likes of Zayn and India getting squeezed off the circuit, dropping down to P17, fighting with Monza at the very rear of this field. But we will head through to the end of this first sector. There's contact. I believe that might be the Haas. I believe that might be AMS Devil with end plate damage. Indeed it is. His right front end plate is all off and all out of shape. So whilst it's 1 good for AMS in the fact that they're in 4th place, it's 1 bad for the fact that they've got Devil, who's surely going to have to come into the pit lane at the end of this lap, screwing their strategy, which was on the hard compounded tyres. So they were going to go long, and now they're going to have to make at least a 2-stop.
Disastrous stuff there for AMS Devil. Quite the opposite for AMS Surface. He did drop a position the other half, but he's managed to at least keep himself clean, unlike his teammate. Another note we must note is Monza again making up more places, up to P13 now. 6 positions gained, make that 7. He's going side by side with Matusi, and at the moment he's moved himself up to P12 and right behind Mattia Manga, who his teammate is currently in P11. Managed to keep that nose clean crucially as well, and that Mercedes is certainly flying through the field, and that is a completely different beast to what he was having to deal in qualifying. We're seeing Boompie move up past Max Power in P17. I wonder if Max Power had damage, because they had also gained a number of positions off the line. Max Power does have damage in that Alpine, and that, unfortunately for them, they're going to have to deal with that, and it looks like they must have got that after the opening lap, because unfortunately then they did not pit. We are looking to see as he goes off the circuit and into the barriers goes to Alpine, and I wonder if he is out of session, not quite, but he's very lucky to get away with that one. Back to the front of the field, Max van der Geest leads the way, while Bands sits in second, 9 tenths behind them, while Nico and Surface battle over third and fourth. Follow Kongan and RWB follow behind, everyone else remaining in DRS. But Max is really trying everything to pull that gap. He almost done it, but Bands had managed just about to keep it in that DRS window.
Yeah, only just. He's about 6 tenths back as they head to the end of this lap. In fact, so he was just able to drag it back in with the DRS. But forgive me if I'm being stupid, but I believe we just saw somebody do a very cool drift back onto the circuit, that being Max Power, who of course he's basically out of the race now. His qualifying didn't go well. His race has somehow managed to get worse than crashing on his first run. But yeah, that is going to be what it is for Max Power, and he drops down the order all the way to 18th place into the pit lane. Is he going to retire? I don't think he will, because they'll get punished if he does, and he doesn't want to let his team down, I would imagine, although he has done so far. Yeah, he did go drift onto the circuit. That was pretty cool, actually. He and AMS Devil will be fighting, I would imagine, as they head through. Max Power back onto a set of the soft compound tyres on lap 3 of this race. So I think that this is just going to be a testing session for the Alpine for his outfit, which is of course the FRT team. As well, they've not had the greatest of game cycles so far, and they're going to hope to improve it. I would imagine the PC side definitely seems to have fallen a lot further than it was last game out. The merger they did at the end of last game really seemed to hurt them. Were they Lynx racing at the end of last game campaign? I think they were. What a time that was, eh? David Bound 7 tenths off the back of Max van der Geest. Nico Castronovo 4 tenths back as they head into the next DRS.
Yeah, at the moment he's got a bit closer than he was on the previous lap. We're seeing Gabsa get past Boom Pie down there in P16, but our battle continues out front. P2 and P3 fighting it out. David Bands managing to keep hold of position as Nico tries to make an attack. Couldn't do it around the outside as the RB manages to defend, but it's allowed Max an opportunity to get a little bit of a gap. Only a smidgen, but it was enough that it means that Max can coast down towards turn 1 without any sort of hassle from the car chasing pack, as they all continue through the S's now, as they got to make sure they are very, very careful of managing their tyres, making sure they don't get too hot, they don't overwork them in the dirty air, but also don't overwork the engine. That is the crucial thing on this game. You overheat the engine, you lose a lot of straight line speed. If your other competitors are better at managing that engine power, then they will their engine overheating, then that will certainly make a big effect in the later in the race. AMS Devil becomes the first driver to retire from the race in the pit lane, and that is certainly, like you say, going to be a punishment for the team, and they will not be quite so happy about that one. As we now go round towards spoon section, Max van der Geest again 8.5 tenths, 9 tenths around that gap. He is managing that gap quite beautifully at this stage.
Yeah, currently managing the gap pretty well at the moment. 7 tenths at the top of the field for Max van der Geest, and it feels as though the more that the fighting goes on further back, the more it's going to cause problems. As actually, it's not going to be a punishment if you do retire in the pit lane. I just double checked with our Instagram ace Harvey, and there is not going to be a punishment to their names. They can retire if they want, which I feel as though it's. I swear it was different a couple of seasons ago at least, but yeah, it is what it is. And that will be AMS Devil, the first out. Max Power, I'm surprised, has continued on in that case. But maybe he's just looking at the rule book, and that's just given him an answer, and he'll retire on this lap. Who knows? But Van der Geest has been closed in by David Bands, and this has been interesting to see the V-Carb for the first time really fighting at the top of the field. And well, it's not something that I've seen very often, so I'm quite thankful that I've been able to see this happen. As well, it will be no chance of points, of course. So it's, I guess it's a punishment in itself that they're not going to get the opportunity to fight for points. But yeah, instead they will be right out of this race. And if I do remember correctly, then it is going to be, and I will find it, and I will remember it as Max Power sets the fastest lap of this race. But the point system, I believe, goes down pretty far, and so retiring is going to cost you the ability to do so. And I've opened up the wrong rule book, so I'm looking at completely the wrong thing. But yeah, we'll have a look to see how many points that is now, as well, you just get to listen to me listen to me yap about the fact that I can't find anything and the fact that I'm quite thick in terms of that. But yeah, no, we'll be all right. We'll be fine. As I've just found it, yes, it is all the way down to 15th place. You can get points. And well, look at me blagging it. Nobody heard that I forgot the point system and the rules momentarily. But we're back on lap 6. David Band's closing in on Max van der Geest, closer than ever. 1.2 tenths off the back. He stays in behind.
Yeah, it's very close now, Vans. He's doing an excellent job here to manage that pace, manage the tyres, manage the engine in the dirty air. But I'd just like to quickly point out, while you were searching through the rule book, there was a bit of contact further down the order. It involved the Mercedes and Monza and one of the McLarens. I believe it might have been MV Indian. But that involved them at the hairpin, and they, I think, that lost them a good couple of positions as they were all fighting. But we continue on, no damage, no safety car. I think Indians actually just coming out of the pits, maybe he did get damage. But everyone continuing on under green flag running at this time. We will see Max van Geest having a little bit more issue now with David Band. He, as the RB, is hunting him down. Max is doing the next job out front, but he needs to make sure he keeps this RB behind, because if he gets stuck in the dirt, yeah, the car will start to overheat. He's been used to running for 6 laps now out in the clean air. He's got to make sure he keeps this clean air to ensure he has the best possible strategy to optimise it. But we're going to continue on down towards the chicane. Max van der Geest gonna have to be put offline though. He went a bit wide into the entry of the chicane. That's put him offline at a disadvantage, going down towards the straight as David Band gets the better exit. DRS, slipstream, and overtake for the RB behind around the outside into turn 1. Is it the opportunity the RB's been looking for? Contact mid-corner, wheel-to-wheel banging. They're going to continue going side by side as we go up the hill. It's David Band who has taken the position and taken the lead ahead of Max van der Geest. And that Red Bull is now going to have to settle for 2nd place as the driver who was the provisional pole sitter for majority of the qualifying session until those final runs, that last dying moment, now takes the lead for the first time of the race.
Yeah, he's been the quickest driver so far, so it's unsurprising to see him up at the top of the field. But well, it's been good that the V-Carb has really been able to hold pace at this point in time. And he's ahead of the 2 Venturi drivers, so Max van der Geest is not going to be seeing much pressure from behind from his teammate. Well, I wouldn't imagine that would be a very good idea, and I'd imagine he'd get told off if he was he started to fight his teammate. But now van der Geest is going to pick up the DRS down the next straight on David Bands, and he's going to try and make his way back in. But now lap number 6, and they are on, or lap number 7, even though they've done 6 laps, they're about to do 7 on that set of tyres. And we'll see what the drivers are going to be able to do as they head around the final few corners on this racetrack. I'm going to bring up the strategy information about this race. And well, Japan is a very good circuit for tyres. Really, it's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's just about right. You're going to want to pit around lap number 9, lap number 10, something like that. If you are on a set of the medium compounded tyres. So the pit window is coming up relatively soon.
Yeah, it certainly is, and that is going to be the deciding factor for teams like the Red Bull squad. Currently sitting P2 and P3, who's going to take advantage of being able to pit first? You theoretically put the driver who is leading out in the leading driver into the pits first. But in the scenario we've got right now, Max van der Geest seems to, we've got to see if he can match the pace of David Bands, and if he can't, it would be an opportunity for the Red Bull team to do a quick swap using the pit stop phases to allow Nico to get by using the undercar. And if that is an opportunity there for the Red Bull team, they might take it, because if Max can't keep up or try and get back past David Bands, or struggles a bit more with the overheating than what his teammate is, it could certainly be an option for them later on. They could have time to figure it out, but it is going to be, we're going to see how the next couple laps play out. Max van der Geest certainly not lost pace though. He may have been recharging the battery a little bit more over the previous lap, because he did drop further back than what he is now. He's certainly caught back up to the RB. He is now right within the DRS window, within about half a second of the RB in front, as we see the first load of drivers taken into the pit lane, the first trio making their way in as everyone files down towards turn 1 on lap 9. It is going to be an interesting race to see how strategy and when you pit and what is the right time to pit plays a factor.
Yeah, it'll be very good to see, as we've got our first few drivers into the pit lane. Volokongan, Zviade and Benjamin have come in, all representing VCARB or SCI, Aston Martin or IRT, and Williams or Williams or ONB respectively. They've all dived in early on. In the end, dived in a little bit earlier than the others onto a set of the hards, so he's going to struggle to make it to the end of the race. But it is still an undercut taken, and I think it will work out for them initially, but the tyre wear at the end of the race will just be a little bit too high, so they'll be hoping for a safety car, and they will dive into the pit lane. I'd imagine that they've taken a harder set, so they might have taken a harder set just so they get another pair of tyres, or another quadruple tyres. What am I trying to say? They'll have 4 new tyres, another new set of hards, because they've already got one. They'll have another, and then they'll have less softs, but then at the same time they might want the softs for qualifying. So it's a bit of a way up, a bit of a mixture. As we head to lap number 10, we will get drivers into the pit lane. David Bands the first, Max van der Hees the second, and David Bands has got up 10-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Weirdly enough, his second in 3 days, and so I believe the VCARB really just need to work out where the pit entry lines are everywhere, because that is going to cost him once again in a Grand Prix as Monza retires from this race, and Volokongan and Benjamin Bai and Zviade fight down towards turn number 1. But that is going to be a shame for David Bands, who now has to fight with a huge handicap.
Yeah, that is a big handicap, particularly with group of drivers so close in pace, as we saw in qualifying. That was a massive train he was a part of, and he was at the top of, as Max Powell gets a 3-second time penalty for his worries. But the RB driver now has Max van der Geest right in his mirrors, and he has now got to deal with that 10-second time penalty, which is not going to go away unless they have a safety car. So he could have just had a race-ruining penalty, and that is most certainly taking him out of the opportunity of taking race victories. And lock up there from Max van der Geest as the McLaren of David Bands get all caught up behind Gabsa, and we now go side by side on the exit, on the one run down through 270R down towards Spoon. Can the RB defend as the Red Bull around the outside of Spoon? He can't quite make the move stick. The RB defends. He manages to defend. It's all about trying to help his teammate, if anything, now, as Volokongan has the opportunity to get the run on the Red Bull. But the Max van der Geest is not going to let this one slide quickly, as they all are bottled up behind the papaya car in front of them. As they go to the outside, goes Max van der Geest onto the grass he goes, and that is not an opportunity for Volokongan to try and make a potential move down the straight, as he got an offset on the chicane. It is chance for Volokongan to the inside to take potentially the race lead on penalties. Contact as we go down the straight, as they're trying to avoid the emerging cars back off pit road, and we go to the inside goes Volokongan to take P7 and provisionally P2 and potentially P1 by race end, and that is an excellent job by the RB.
Certainly is, but this lot have caught up to Gabza and Bumpia, and so they might get the drivers on the worn tyres at just the wrong time. One more lap and I think they might have been alright, because those tyres would have been gone off, but these drivers will feel as though they'll be competitive on these sets of hard compound tyres. Still, David Bands looking maybe to the inside of the next corner. Indeed he is. It's going to be a late lunge, one that Gabza wasn't expecting, and they're both going to roll over each other. David Bands' end plate has just come off his car, and that was a risky move that he made, considering that the McLaren was already turning in, and that's cost him in this race. He's first got a 10-second time penalty, second got a front wing end plate off, but he's got his teammate Volokongan for company just behind him. That might be crucial across the course of this race now, as Vola is going to be able to hold up the drivers behind, but Nico Castronova, Max van der Hees, and now Benjamin Bai and Ortiz through on Gabza, but contact between the VMV driver and the SCI driver has just cost, I think, David Bands so much time.
Yes, that's a very, very difficult day for David Bands. But meanwhile, dive bomb by Benjamin up the inside of Nico in the Red Bull and the Williams as they scrap it out. Benjamin couldn't quite get the move done there. As you see the RB of do the swap as David Bands allows Volakongan through for P5 and P1 on the road now. And at the moment, the RB team might start working together because David Bands, nothing to lose now in reality. Got damage, got a 10-second time penalty, could potentially help his teammate out, could take race victory and give him the potential advantage as he stacks the cars up behind him. But Volakongan also has another driver to get by. That is Boompie in P4 currently in the Aston Martin on 11 lap old hard compounder tyres. The RB will need to quickly go and get by, otherwise it will become a bit more of a difficult day because Max van der Geest is not going to be playing around with David Bands and he'll be looking to get by as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, the Red Bulls are going to have to deal with the Williams of Benjamin and Ortiz. And at the moment, it is going to be a very, very exciting run to the finish because everyone is starting to scrap for position even harder as they get backed up behind the slower drivers now.
Certainly is, the opportunities are rife even more than they have been ever before, and I don't think that's could be said lightly. We'll see what they are going to be able to do at the end of this race, but it's a race that promises and a race that you can't quite predict what is going to happen with all of the drivers out on circuit squirreling through in a nice little snake. You never really know what they're going to be capable of. Surface gets through on RWB and moves up to 11th place, and Volakongan makes his way past Bumpia and he's through on the laps, not the laps car, the car that's out of sync with everybody else. The next driver through on them is David Bands. Max van der Geest and Nico Castronova now will have to wait behind in the first sector, and that's going to lose them a whole load of time.
Certainly will. As David Bands has the opportunity now to actually trying to pull away a little bit and use the slower car on the alternate strategy of Boompie to his advantage. It's not going to probably offset a complete 10 seconds, but it will certainly offset a bit of DRS in the from the drivers behind, because Max van der Geest will pass Boompie into down the inside into the hairpin to try and make that move stick, as he certainly does so into P6. Meanwhile, his teammate of Nico is going to go take advantage of the exit using the better traction to move to P7. But they're both now out of DRS of David Bands. If the damage isn't too severe, it would become difficult for Max van der Geest to try and pull himself back in. Benjamin Bye and on OMB Ortiz get by the Aston Martin now, as everyone starts to quickly file through as fast as they physically can to not lose out on that DRS. But there's all sorts of scrapping still to come in this race. Meanwhile, up front we've got Matthew Manga and the two Salvers fighting it out for what is currently the race lead, but they are fighting it out for the lead of the alternate strategy. That is crucial. Meanwhile, we're going to see Nico go by Max van der Geest. He didn't look to put up a fight there, Max, and he allows Nico to move to P6.
And in fairness, it does look as though the alternate strategy might be working, because they've gained time rather than lost time in the start of this stint, and that's where you would imagine they're going to gain the most time if you're on the strategy where you pit first. But that's not been the case. That when they've pitted second, that seems to have worked out so far. If they continue to fight, it will work out. But if they don't continue to fight, then it'll all work itself out, and it'll look as though later on in the race that it was the smarter thing to do, to wait, to not fight on the circuit, and then not have anything cost. But Manga, Matthias and Zane looking in a strong position at this point in time, and I can see them taking full advantage of this and just going as deep as they can into the stint, allowing them to fight. But the only problems being the damage from David Bands, meaning that he's going to drop back. Volakongan has managed to eke out a gap on him, and then Max van der Geest and Nico Castronova, who haven't quite had the pace that they did at the early portion of this stint. They've sort of dropped off it, really, if I'm being completely frank. And of course, my name is not Frank. My name is Joseph. But if I'm being completely frank with you, it does look as though they've dropped off from the pace that they had at the start of this stint and the start of this race as well. So this might be the turning point where we see, in this stint at least, the SCIs, despite David Band's damage, be faster.
So Joseph Frank Black is right on the top of this one, with the Red Bulls being not as quick as what they once were, and it seems to be a big factor here because the hards seem to not be getting working under that Red Bull car. Maybe the setup are not quite optimised for those hard competitive tyres. But David Bands is now got Nico for company in DRS. Potentially that damage not being as significant as what maybe we think, but it certainly is going to make a difference. But with that penalty, because at the moment David Vance is only 1.5 seconds off of Volokongan. If he can defend for long enough for his teammate, Volokongan is going to have a better and better chance at race victory. His tyres will be in a better condition. They will not be as hard done by like the drivers behind him, and it certainly will play a factor as we go down towards the 130R now. We see Nico right behind David Band, currently 2 tenths, just over that, maybe nearly 3 tenths. As we go into 130R, he's going to be close by the time we get into the final chicane. Is there going to be any move done? Not who sort of dive bomb there. We're going to see as we go through the chicane now and onto the exit. DRS will be used by the Red Bull, but can Nico do anything about the RB in front, or will David Bands have enough ERS to defend? DRS, slipstream, and ERS for Nico behind. David defends to the inside. That alternates his line as they alternate line through the corner to the exit, but David Bands doing enough here to defend for his teammate, and that is the crucial thing. How long can Bands defend?
Yeah, he's going to try and defend as long as he can for the rest of this race, I would imagine. But this, the tyres that he's on are going to start going off because he has to push them more than he regularly would because of what he's done to his front wing, and that could be an error that is going to lose Shazoo at least an on-track 1-2, if not losing them a P1 overall, because Castronovo and Max van der Geest are of course going to work together to try and fight their way through this field and fight their way back up. Volokongan has a 2.3 second gap though, so David Bands is doing absolutely perfectly. There's only one DRS straight down this circuit, and he's going to try and hold them up to that point and then try and push away. I won't get the ERS up because I don't want anybody from Shazoo to come from my head, but I'd imagine David Bands has been saving all this lap for this opportunity. Are we going to be seeing a move into 130 hours? We've got a driver into the pit lane, Mattia Manga and TRT Zane into the lane as well alongside goes Castronovo. David Bands defends, and here comes the ERS usage from the both of them, but of course the DRS and the slipstream for the Red Bull. A little bit of a squirrel on the exit from VNT Nico Castronovo. Is that going to be enough to cost his move on David Bands? Bands defends the middle, into the inside goes Castronovo, the outside goes Max van der Geest, and the two VNT drivers are through. They set their sights on the Norwegian ahead.
It's unfortunate there for David Bands. He couldn't keep both of them behind. He kind of sat himself in the middle of the track and left himself to be taken on either side. But the Red Bulls now have their mission. They know they've got to go after Volokongan. 2.7 seconds is the gap between Volokongan and Nico. A 6-tenth further deficit for Max van der Geest, who sits now in provisional P3 once Matusi has peeled into the pit lane very shortly. His pit stop window will be coming up soon after Mattia Manga and Zane peeled into the pit earlier on in the lap. But Nico has now got his mission set off after Volokongan. This is for the race victory. They have the opportunity here to take the first victory of the season here. Do Red Bull, do VNT or do SCI, if I should say, sorry. But at the moment, it is going to be who can take it out on top, who's kept their tyres in check, who's managed to keep their battery manage their battery better, who has managed to ties the engine. Every single factor, every miniature detail on how you're driving is a lock up there for Nico, so it's going to help his tyres. But every miniature detail really matters in how close this is, and we will see whether Nico can catch Volokongan. With just 10 laps to go in this race, it is certainly shaping up to be an excellent one.
Yeah, Matusi out of the pit lane into 13th place, I would imagine, as he's 2.6 off his teammate Zane, and well, that's going to be the undercut effect. 1 lap difference between Mattia Manga and Zane, and Matthias are going to put them 2.7 seconds apart, and Mattia Manga actually joined the back of this train. He is 8 tenths off the back of Viade, with brand new medium compounded tyres that aren't bad around this circuit. So it promises, but later on, we'll wait and see as to whether Mattia Manga is going to be able to be fighting his way forward. It's looking very, very good though for Mattia, as I've just gotten rid of the timing board. There you go, there is it back. We've got that 18 or 27 just gone. That looked like a breaking point, but it wasn't, I promise. We haven't got cutaways, unfortunately. We haven't quite got the budget for that sort of level of production. That'd be great if we do, actually. But anyway, back to the point. The competitive speed series, of course, is kicking off tonight, and the drivers will want to get their teams off onto a very strong foot. And the way they can do that is to have a good result here today. And it looks as though Venturi are going to be the team in the best position to have a good result here today, as Mattia Manga to the inside as Viade. And that might be the first move the medium runners make on the hard runners. Viade 9-lap-old hards, 1-lap-old mediums from Mattia Manga. He finds his way through and he bullies his way through on the Aston Martin even. And now it might be the opportunity for the Kick Sauber to make his way through as well. Zane through on Viade, Benjamin and David Band swapping. Nico Castranovo going through on Max van der Hayes, who must have made a mistake in the first corner because he's gone very wide. He's gone so slowly, in fact. He's almost dropped that 1 second, but Benjamin through on David Band for 4th place. And I'd imagine that's going to start a domino effect with a V car before he drops further down the field.
Yeah, it certainly will. We've kind of seen the domino effect being run throughout the middle portion of the race, where we saw the drivers on older compound of tyres kind of just get domino affected to the back of the field. They were offline, and then they just kept getting put offline by the drivers as they snake themselves through. But oh yeah, I'm not sure we got happened there. Max van der Geest. He went very far off the circuit, and then Nico came back, and now it's like an even bigger gap to Volokongan than what there once was. And at the moment, the Red Bulls, yes, they have a 1 over a second margin to Benjamin by, but unfortunately, you've got a massive gap to Volokongan now, who's just now easily got taking the lead and just can ease themselves home at this moment in time. Not ease themselves, they still got to keep themselves to some degree, but they can make sure their tyres remain in check a little bit better, not push them so hard, and they have the opportunity to take this one home, while the drivers behind them make more and push their tyres and heat them up even more. Meanwhile, Bands is now going to have OMB Ortiz try and make a move past him. DRS for the Williams isn't going to be enough though, because Bands manages to keep ahead and use his ERS to pull a gap even then. And I wonder if that was more than just ERS, because he looked like he had a lot more straight line speed than what you would imagine for a driver who behind him had DRS as well. So I do wonder if setups have an effect here, but at the moment we're going to see if that David Vance can hold on to P5, but unfortunately it's not going to make any difference. That 10-second time penalty is going to play a factor. We're going to see as we go through Deckner 2 now, the Deckners now, David Vance just hold up that whole entire train behind him from P5 to P13 just for a while longer.
Yes, it's very interesting to see the differences, of course, between the setups. As an engineer myself, I think it's really fun to watch the differences in the setups, the differences in the way that they approach races, and then steal it and use it for my own gain as Matthias goes through on Mattia Manga. And well, it does look as though the driver representing the race speed championship team isn't quite on the pace of the two Kick Saubers, of the two TRT drivers. That's a shame for him, but he's going to hope to try and stay within range of them. Zane now, speaking of, it's going to be right on the back of RWO6 as they head through the final couple of corners and out onto the main straight. The Alpine just ahead of the Ferrari, who's just ahead of the Kick Sauber, riding on board with the Ferrari, which is what got me confused. But now Zane, with the DRS, is going to be able to gain in. Indeed he is, but he's going to be able to gain enough to make a move into the first corner. No, he's not. So he remains in behind RWO6, and you don't get many overtaking opportunities. There's one though. There's a golden chance for Zane as RWO6 covers him off just about enough. Zane tries to take to the outside line and try and squeeze his competitor, but in the end, the TRT driver has to remain behind.
Yeah, Zane, he's got the better tyres, has got the newer, fresher, softer compound of tyres in comparison to the Ferrari in front, so he has the opportunity to use them to his fullest effect, get the better exits off corners, get the better runs, and manage the tyres. He's going to go up to the hairpin now with the opportunity to make the dive bomb. He makes the move up the inside. Almost very reminiscent of what we saw in DTM earlier this year, just without a little bit of gloss, but it's more touching there as the Ferrari and the Sauber managed to get connected to each other. As now he's got to go around the outside, it will turn to the inside for Spoon corner for Zane. Can he make the move stick? No. RW06 around the outside on the exit of the corner, and he takes the position into P9 once more, and Zane just has to try and find another opportunity to find his way by. He's taken too long in terms of trying to get by a driver who's on older and harder compound tyres. He needs to try and find something because he's now letting that group in front get away. He's only got a handful of laps left. Is it going to be time for Zane to make a move? He's going to have DRS in comparison to the Ferrari, who has none, but is it going to be enough to pull to the inside? Got well close to the back of the Scuderia, and the Kick Sauber moves into the P9, and that is a very good, very nicely done, but it took way too long in comparison. He's now got a 1.6 second gap to catch RWB 2004, while meanwhile AWS Surface is in the DRS of AWS Surface, OMB Ortiz, and David Band, who has got himself at train from P5 downwards still, and this is going to be a difficult time for the Saubers to try and get through.
Yes, it's going to be very difficult when the tyres get older and older to get through, and especially when RWB is depending his life basically, and he's doing a good job to do so, because he's likely to be the only driver from his FRT team to pick up points in the end, with Max Power, of course, right off the back of the field, and he is going to remain right off the back of the field for the remainder of this race, you would imagine. But it's looking good for RWB, looking decent for a good haul of points for one of the FRT drivers, at least as they kick off their season pretty well. 22 of 27, about to turn over to 23 of 27, and Nico Castronovo has not been able to make the gains that he would have wanted to on Volocom, and it's 3.5 between the two drivers as Surface and Ortiz get very close to the back of David Bands. Ortiz looks to the outside into the final corner. Bands defended the middle, but onto the exit then, and the OMV driver is going to get a supreme one. He's going to pick up the DRS on the back of the V-carb, and he's going to make the run down the main straights. David Bands does not have such luxuries, but Ortiz does not have enough straight line speed to make it any closer. Or is he going to try and go for a move down the inside? He might have chanced it, but no, he backed out. Didn't back out early enough to get the run out of the first corner and into the second, but he just remains in behind. In the meantime, RW06 almost got thrown off as Matthias, we cut over, and the Kick Sauber's off of the circuit, but RW06 holds 10th place, but not the DRS, so he may well drop himself down to 11th very shortly, maybe even 12th with the two medium tyre runners. Zane still on the back of RWB, all over the back of RWB, and he's going to try and make his way through soon. It feels as though there's quite a few battles cooking.
Yeah, there's a few battles now cooking. It's up the inside. Goes Matuza on Mattia Manga in the Mercedes, and the Sauber gets by for P11 after going off the circuit. RW06 now is just in front of him. Can he try and get back by him? The Sauber needs to try and get and catch back up to his teammate. Yes, he's got the DRS, does the RW06, but those hard compound tyres clearly are going to start struggling even more now. Meanwhile, RWB 2004 is going to have an opportunity, going to have to do some defending, because here comes TRT Zane as we go into 130R. Is there an opportunity to make any sort of dive bomb there from the Sauber? He doesn't manage to do it. He's got not done any later on the break. Sticks behind him, takes a little bit of a better line than the Alpine, who have to do a slight defence, only a minor defence against the Mystery Machine. But the Sauber does have the opportunity now to try and make an overtake work, but there's nothing he can do here, because the DRS for the Alpine is available for him into turn 1. We now go round through the S's. His where he will be superior in terms of grip, in terms of driving. That tyre delta is still significant, but we're running out of laps for the Sauber to do anything towards David Bands, NB Ortiz and AMS Surface. Can he get by RWB before it is too late? Into the deadness now. He's a bit further back than he would probably want to be at this stage, because he has made a dive bomb into this hairpin once or twice now, but he can't do anything here because he's too far back as RWB later on the brakes, but he's too late on the brakes because that's forced him a little bit wider than his optimised light, because now that has allowed TRT Zane to try and get back by, but there is a bit of ERS from RWB allows him to keep the position.
Yeah, keep the position for this point. At this point in time, RWB were very a very big fight with Zayn and Surface and Ortiz and David Bans as well. I think David is just holding everyone up at this point in time, which is working so well for his teammate, which is a good thing, as Nico Castronovo has gained 5 tenths per second with only 3 laps to go. He may well be in the range in the final lap, but we'll wait and see. 25 to 27, Nico Castronovo just over 3 tenths back, and he wants to gain a second per lap if he wants to get back in, which is not out of the question with the tyre wear that Volokongan's got at the moment, because it's 2 laps older than Nico Castronovo. Max van der Kies has a 1 lap deficit to Nico Castronovo and a 1 lap gain on Volokongan. But the most interesting fight, I think, is the one further down the field, the ones for 10th and 11th place. And Mattia Manga did go for a move into the first corner, couldn't quite make it stick, and might find his way back behind Matthias as they keep swapping and swapping and swapping. And Matthias, yeah, he's not going to make a move. He's going to stay in behind Mattia Manga for this point in time. And Nico Castronovo is not gaining that first sector. He needed to gain about 3 tenths, I would say. So it's not looking good for the Red Bull driver. But they've done well, VNT, to pick up a 2-3. And that looks exactly like what they're going to pick up. And in fact, the OMB, they've had a great start to the season, with Benjamin by 4th and Ortiz 6th. Not quite where you would have expected OMB, I don't think, personally. But yeah, they're doing well in the highest positions, and Ortiz obviously will get back past David Bounds and up into 5th place. Out of a 4-5, will probably be 2nd place, with where David Bounds is likely to filter out in 13th.
Yeah, at the moment it is a difficult day for SCI, because Volokongan in leading the way, yes, but David Bounds is going to drop out. He will look to get. He's not had the luck this race, has he? Was leading qualifying provisionally throughout for the majority of the session until the dying moments where Max van der Kies snatched it after he didn't do the final run. But we'll quickly go back to that in a second as AS Surface gets past OMB Ortiz for P6. And is there going to be another opportunity for Ortiz to get back? He tries to go up the inside. He can't quite do anything, and that means Surface gets P6. But as I was saying, Band can't. Lost out of pole position by a couple of attempts, then got this 10-second time penalty at the first pit stops, and then got himself some damage of a McLaren who was on a different strategy. It has not been the best of races for David Bounds, and he's shown good pace throughout all of it, and it is just one of those situations when Lady Luck is not on your side, and something you need in any form of racing is Lady Luck, and if she's not there, you won't be getting you will not be having a good race, and it will just keep falling down for you, and you just will not be able to take race victories, and you'll be in this situation time and time again. David Bounds, though, at least he's P5 on the road, but like you say, P13 is the best he will manage to get once penalties are applied.
Yeah, which is unfortunate for him, as we had, I think, another driver who's found himself in a bad position at this race. He just got caught by the medium runners at the wrong time, and that broke his momentum, and that threw him down the field, and that's why he finds himself in 13th place now, and right at the back of this train. It's been pretty interesting, in fact, to watch the fact that the trainers managed to stay together all race along. And even the medium runners, they've slotted themselves into the middle, and I think the TRT drivers will be disappointed with the momentum that they've made up in this race, but I think, on the contrary, the RSC of Mattia Manga will be happy that he's going to end up not too far off Matthias, might even be challenging Matthias by the end of this race. But now the final lap is underway, and Volokongan has just come to the end of the first sector, so he's not got to navigate the tricky sector, the technical sector, the sector that causes so many problems for so many drivers. And at the moment, you've got 5th down to 13th filtering their way through and out of it. But that pack is led by his teammate David Bounds, who picked up a 10-second time penalty coming into the pit lane. Hasn't quite managed to challenge for race victories. He's always up there with qualifying, never in the race. Just seems to be the way things go for the SCI driver. But of course, he's learning, he's growing, and he's got a great team to help him do so. Jesus Ida Igniters, one of the biggest names on console, and they are going to come home and take victory in the opening round of season 7 of one of the biggest console tournaments there is. Volokongan has driven this race so perfectly. He is in so much form at the moment, and whilst he hasn't been able to show it in a lot of times today, has been a different case, and Volokongan will come around the final couple of corners to take the victory here today. It's been a cruise after the pit stops, and he has thoroughly deserved that dominant victory. Nico Castronova, Max van der Geest take home VNT second and third. Benjamin Bai with a great result for OMB in fourth. David Bands in fifth, but he'll drop down behind Surface, behind Ortiz, behind RWB, RWO6, Matthias, Mattia Manga, Zviade, Zane, and all the way down to 13th place. And of course, don't forget, we get points all the way down to 15, and it'll be Indien and Bumpia who come home in those places, but not if Gabza's got anything to say about it. He sends it into the final corner on the IRT drive, and they are going to be finishing locked in battle, but no run for Bumpia because of the fact that he was attacked. Means that is going to be the McLaren. That means it's going to be Gabza picking up the final points for VMV on a decent enough debut for the team, and they won't be happy with it. I don't think there'll be room to improve, but it's a decent start for the team that shocked everybody on qualifying night. Having a look at the final results then, and it will be Volokongan, of course, taking that victory home as second place for Nico Castronova, third for Max van der Geest, fourth for Benjamin Bai, and then AMS Surface rounding out the top five. Ortiz in sixth, RWB in seventh, RWO6 in eighth, the sole representative for AERT, and then Matthias and Mattia Manga will round out the top 10 on the alternate strategy. Then Zviade, and then Zane, who picked up a 3-second that cost him the top 10 finish on the final lap. David Bands ended up 13th, Indien 14th, and then Gabza, Bumpia, and Max Power will round out our finishers, with Monza and Devil rounding out our non-finishers. But that was round one done and dusted, and it feels like it went by in a flash. It feels like a pretty good race, and if you take everything into consideration, and that sets herself up well, sets SCI up well especially, and also sets VNC up well for the season.
Yeah, it certainly does. It is a very, very good job from the drivers in today, and it's a much better race than what I was kind of expecting. I was expecting it to be quite difficult with the overtaking. It started off as a slow burner, and then then once we got to the pit stops, that's where we started to see all the action really start to kick off. And the drivers all drove very well today. There's a couple of things in there which were a bit avoidable, however, minor if anything. And what is looks to be setting us up for a very, very exciting season of CSS, and this is very, very good. Some very, very good drivers. Congratulations to Volokongan and the two VNT drivers on the win and podiums today.
Yes, very well done from them drivers, and we'll see whether we can get an interview with them at some point. But with us not being in the server, I wouldn't be surprised if we just call off the interviews for this evening and round out this evening of racing. And I was incorrect actually about PC. They did not start, they got delayed, so this was actually the kicker offer of everything CSS season number 7. It's been great to see you join us for this evening. I will just double check to see if we get any interviews. I think so, but I mean, a very good race for SCI, very good race for VNT, very good race for ONB as well, who came into this one very much underdogs, very much not looking as though they were. I didn't even think they were. I thought they were going to be fighting down the bottom of the top 10 at the very most, but 4th and 5th, not too bad, and well, sets themselves up very well.
Yeah, it certainly does, and it really it does really show that we've got a couple different stories coming out of this. We've got the rise of a couple teams, new teams entering and finding their feet, but you're going to see some drivers really start to settle themselves in. Japan's a very difficult track, and it's a very unique circuit as well in comparison to some of the circuits that are on the Formula 1 calendar. So we'll see whether that makes a difference. We might have a whole different array of drivers and teams up front because they might find themselves in a better circuit come next week or the following weeks to come at least. So yeah, Japan delivers, and we're going to see who can take the title. It's got a long way to go yet, though. We're only at round 1.
Yeah, it certainly does, and I've thrown you over. I didn't want you looking at me anymore, so I threw you over to a qualified teams graphic, and then I will throw you over to the calendar, a very oversized calendar that I'll change in just a moment because I changed the wrong thing. I didn't mean to change qualified teams. I meant to change my face, but there you go. That is the calendar we've got on our hands. Japan kicking us off for the season as we've just had, and second is Zandvoort. That's what we've got next week. Jeddah will be the host of round number 3. Spain round number 4. Azerbaijan, round 5. Canada, round 6. And then Silverstone and Qatar rounding us off for the first 8 rounds. Then Singapore, China, Belgium, Mexico, Texas, Monza, and then Vegas to round us off. Vegas, a very interesting circuit to finish us off for a campaign. But yeah, we'll see. What circuit do you think we are most, or what circuit are you the most excited for?
Uh, to be honest, there's so many good circuits on the calendar. I'm a massive fan. I don't know why, but I'm a massive fan of Texas in that sense. But also, it's such a wide variety as well. But Texas, I'm probably the one is probably the one I'm looking forward to the most. It's got a lot of similarities to different circuits, but it's got a lot of good mixes as well. Looking at it, another circuit probably I'm looking at is Belgium, and then Silverstone. They always throw up good races as well. The difficulty of and the longevity of Singapore in terms of a race, and the high speed nature of Qatar. Again, just such a mixed calendar and so many things that can throw up good opportunities. And that middle portion of the season is purely excellent. It just shows that as well. Of a 15 round calendar, you don't often see a fairly long calendar like that these days either, and it's quite nice to see.
Yeah, 15 rounds on our hands, and it will come to an end all the way. Can you imagine this? All the way in April. April. I I don't know what my life will be like in April, let alone what CSS will be like in April. We'll have 3 rounds before Christmas, or before the winter break if you don't celebrate, because I know many don't, and then we'll have 2 weeks off, then right back on it in Spain in New Year. And of course, with the way that the sim racing world is, we could have completely different lineups for each of these teams. I don't know what the rules are around having different lineups, but I don't think we'll be getting anybody into the interview room. So, Jamie, any final thoughts before we round off?
It's going to be exciting season. I'm kind of looking forward to keeping up with it, and whether we're here in the future for future rounds, or whether we're here next week or whatever, just keeping up with it. Whoever's doing it, it's going to be a very exciting season going ahead. And yeah, come and join us. We've got some very exciting drivers and a lot of inter team rivalries. I'd say rivalries across the board.
Very good. But of course, that will be round number 1 done and dusted. There's only a certain amount of things we can say about this season, because it has only been, it's not been long at all in any way, shape, or form. Really, it's been 1 round. It's been 27 laps. If you add qualifying, it's been about 30 laps for the drivers. If you add practice, it's probably been about 31 laps for the drivers. But that is going to be that for this evening's action. I'll play you out with a couple of messages from our partners at Grid Finder and from our partners at Next Level at Sim Racing Centre as well. Until next time, it is goodbye.